What's up, YouTube? So, today's topic, I'm going to talk about the reasons why society, the reasons why this world makes people a lot more dumb and emotionally unintelligent and very narcissistic. So, let's get to it. And selfish. So, the reason why this world makes most people very narcissistic, very selfish, very ego driven, very dumb, to where they lack emotional intelligence, to where they're very selfish and they're only out for themselves, is because we live in a society to where everything is focused on based on making money. So it doesn't really matter how much of a good person you are. It doesn't matter what you can bring to this world. Really, what really matters is that you're willing to obey, to follow directions, to follow orders, and to abide by society. Now, that could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. It's a good thing to where, because there are certain things where you have to go by the rules. So, for example, like, you can't just go out in the world and just kill random people. You can't go out in the world and just rape random people. You can't go out in the world and just like, just to cause harm onto people for no reason, a person, animal, or things, right? You can't do that. So but that's common sense. Human beings know right from wrong. But so that's a good thing within this society, because if you do wrong, then there's consequences. You go to jail, you get kidnapped. Yeah, so but the bad thing about it is that how this world is structured, it's structured in a way to where if you don't want to abide by the rules or by the system, not from a moral standpoint, but more so from a slave standpoint. So what do I mean by this? I mean by this, we're like, if because society, since it's ruled by money, and in order for you to have hygiene, like to shower, to brush your teeth, to get a haircut, to take care of your human body, because it requires those things, or you get sick, or if you need food, water, that's part of survival. If you need a roof over your head, that's survival due to the weather. If you need clothes to keep yourself warm and comfortable, um, and education, so you can have resources to expand your mind and grow and to learn how to comprehend things and stuff like that. Learning how to use the body and the human brain to create stuff and do certain things that benefit society. Where was I getting at? Oh yeah, so I forgot where I was getting at. I lost track because I was mentioning so many things. But basically, this world rules over money, right? And because, oh, like I said, because money, it dictates those things. It dictates where you eat, sleep, and live, pretty much. People are forced to do those things. But what happens if someone doesn't want to do those things? Not because they're a bad person, but let's say because they want to actually enjoy life and have free will. If they want to use their free will to travel around the world, to not work because their body is exhausted, or simply because they don't want to work, that's your birthright to do that. We have freedom of choice. As human beings, we have free will to do that. But according to society and this world standards, we do not have free will to do that. Why do I say this? It's because when you don't work, when you don't want to work, if you don't want to fill out a job application, if you don't want to work, that means you're not making money. And what happens if you don't make money? You're not going to have an apartment. You're not going to have a house. You're not going to have a car. You're not going to have money to buy clothes, to buy food, water, shelter. So that's pretty fucked up by how society does that. That's the issue with society. It forces human beings to do things against their will. If human beings don't want to do those things, society will punish you, not overtly, but covertly. Society's not going to kill you. They're not going to shoot you down or gun you down. No. But what they'll do is that's overt. Covertly is when they'll do things to punish you, meaning they won't support you. They're going to give your life a harder time, and you're going to have a difficult time having full control over this world that you live in. You have no control. Now, people may say, but how do we have no control if those things, how do we have, like, how does it have control for us if we have access to the whole earth? Well, because society in this world, they basically have their hands on earth. They have their hands on the world. Why do I say this? Because, like I said, if you don't work, if you don't want to work at a job, if you don't want to fill a job application, if you don't want to participate in society, then you're not gonna have a place to live. You're not gonna have access to food, water, shelter, because all those things is controlled. The thing is that the basic the basic human requirements that human beings need to survive and to be healthy in this world, this society, the government, they have access to all those things. How do they have access to all those things? I don't know. It goes all the way back to human history. And we all know what happened throughout human history. There's been a lot of wars, battles, bloodshed. The colonizers, the pilgrims, they took over the land and shit like that. And then they created a fucked up system. And then we had human slaves. We are still human slaves to this day. A lot of racism and all this shit happened. So that's human history. It led up to this point. And even then, we are still experiencing those things to a certain extent. But honestly, it's more covertly, honestly. But yeah, so because we're in a situation to where, if we're put in a situation, an environment to where we are forced to work, regardless of how we feel, regardless of what's morally right or not, society will guarantee punish you no matter what if you don't want to participate in the society. Either way, regardless, human beings have to work. Human beings have to be forced to work. Human beings are forced to go to school. Human beings are forced to work. Everything in the society, it's structured and set up to a way to where we have no actual control over it. The government in power, the people who rule over this world, the elites, people call them the Illuminati, they have control over this shit. So this is why a lot of people, they're very narcissistic. They lack emotional intelligence. There's a lot of dysfunctional families. There's a lot of broken homes. There's a lot of divorces. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of wars and battles and bloodshed. There's a lot of people going to jail, going to prison. There's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of suicides, mainly because of the society. That's the main reason why. Because society doesn't really help you or back you up or support you if you are in need. The only time society will help you or back you up is if you have money in the bank. That's basically if you want to apply or qualify for a loan, if you want to have certain benefits, it requires you having money in the bank or you being in the military. Not a lot of people want to be in the military because the military involves wars, battles, and death. So people don't want to get themselves involved into that situation. Look at World War I, World War II. If World War I and World War II were to happen, I feel like most people would not do it because people don't want to die fighting for something that they don't want to fight for. Like, no one likes the government. Most people don't like this society. Most people don't like this world because of social media. We are becoming more aware of how corrupt the government is and how much they're selfish. So people do not want to defend that, specifically America. So people will most likely rather not volunteer to go to World War I or World War II. But even back then, people were forced to do that. It's called, I forgot what it's called. It's called a draft, where they actually force people to do that shit. So, and then people die over this shit. So. But I'm not talking about, because in the military you're doing something wrong. No, because I've been in the military, but the main reasons why people have been in the military is because of the benefits, because of school education, because of money, because of access to benefits to navigate in the society without struggling. And that's the issue. The fact that people have to join the military, people have to join the armed forces just to have access to benefits that realistically every human being should rightfully be given access to because it's their birthright. People shouldn't have to pay for education. Every time people get a degree, then they have student loan debt. Every time if people want to apply for any type of school, they have to pay money out of their pocket. And in order for you to make money, you have to work. But what happens if people don't want to work? You could work for so long, but you're still not going to get retirement pay until you're 60 or 50. And even then, even when you do get retirement pay, that's not really enough for you to be financially free. Because do you see most 60 years olds, 50 years olds, that's the average retirement age required by society. Do you see them travel around the world having influence? No, they're not. They're usually stuck in their city. They're stuck in their state, stuck in their small home, and not really doing anything. Why? Because they don't have enough they don't have enough funds. They don't have enough money to actually do the things they want to do. They only have just enough for them just to survive, but not enough for them to actually experience life. And what sucks is that in order for you to really want to experience life and have fun in life, you need to have a lot of money. When you want to travel around the world, when you want to meet different cultures, when you want to see different parts of the world, that requires money because the government, the people in power, they basically controlled everything and manipulated their way to where everything is their way. This is why everything is their way. Why? Because everything costs money. Just recently, I went to a pharmacy, and mind you, I got out the military. I was active duty 4 years. Now I'm currently in the National Guard, right? So I thought like, okay, I don't have to pay whenever I get healthcare or something like that, right? Or I don't have to pay for any type of medicine, right? So tell me why. I went to a local hospital, right? So I had to join that hospital because I'm not active duty no more. So I don't have access to an army hospital. So I'm part-time now. So I went to go, I guess, not enroll, but apply to, or I don't know what the word is, but I went to sign up to be at a certain hospital, right? At a certain medical clinic, right? Tell me why they still charge me like, I think like $20, I think, just to get in. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, damn, that y'all, I didn't know that you guys charge just for you just to be in a hospital. What the fuck? And I was booking an appointment too. I got to pay $20 just for that. So fast forward, I had to get medicine. Then so they decided to put my medicine and the stuff where I'm going to pick it up at the local Target, right, at my area. So I went to the Target store, and I had to pay $10 just to get medicine that was issued to me. So I'm like, this is crazy. When I had to pay for both of these things, I was genuinely shocked and surprised. I'm like, man, we got to pay for everything, man. Even like at my apartment complex, it's a dollar. It's $1.75 just to put clothes in there, just to wash them on the laundry, and now it's another $1.75 just to dry them. So everything costs money, damn near everything, So having access to water, food, shelter, a phone, a car, gas is increasing. Like, everything costs money. So what the fuck is going on? And if you don't want to work, if you don't want to be a slave in this society, then guess what? You're not going to have money. So all the things I listed, you're not going to have access to any of those things. Why? Because the government controls people. They control the people. They control the society. They control this world. This is why people are forced to work. When you wake up, when you observe society, every day is the same shit. Most people are doing the same thing, but different situations. Same shit, but different situations. You always see cars driving around. They're not traveling around the world. They're not experiencing life. No, what they're doing is that they're driving because they're clocking in to work a 9 to 5. Either they're going to a 9 to 5 job, or they're going to school just to get education so it can increase their opportunity to find work. Why do people go to school? Why do people even join the military? So they can have a good increase of them getting a job, so they get paid good, so they could survive on their own. So, and because we're in a society to where people are forced to work, people are forced to go to school off of survival. It's not off of interest. It's off of survival. It's not off of your interest because you really want to do that, but it's more so off of survival. And even if you do love what you do when it comes to work, if you have a foreign talent or skill that makes you a lot of money, even then you're still not going to like it eventually, because you're still forced to do it over and over again until the day you die, based on the government and society's demands and stuff like that. So this is how it is. So we don't really have true freedom like that. We don't have true free will. Obviously other countries, they're more restricted compared to America. Yes, I agree with that. But at the same time, what I'm saying is that we really don't have as much freedom or free will as we think we do. Everything is covertly. We don't really have full control over our lives. Even around the country, yes, there are some countries that have different laws and regulations, and other countries that have certain freedoms and stuff like that, but everything is still the same. Human beings are still forced to work for money. People are still in the operating office of a survival mode. Before all this bloodshed and all these wars and all the other human beings conquering other lands and kicking other people out to kill them off and stuff like that, before all this happened, I'm pretty sure Earth was a good place for people to really navigate it and to use it in order for them to survive. But now we got all this fuck shit going on. We got all this corruption. We got all this manipulation and all this enslavement going on, to where people aren't really living life, but they're really operating on a survival mode. It's a very selfish world out here, and because we live in a selfish world, it produces a lot of selfish human beings. This is why we have a lot of divorces. We have a lot of narcissistic families, And we have a lot of gender wars going on. We have a lot of males that have a lot of tensions and beef with the females because apparently the laws and the court systems works more so on the women's favor compared to the men. So men have a lot of issues with that. And then because of social media, a lot of people post dumb shit. They like to start drama based off of their own trauma. Because we have access to social media, because society traumatizes a lot of people and people don't have the tools or the self-awareness or the strength to heal themselves because of the society, they project their trauma onto social media. And because a lot of people have access to social media, a lot of people are able to see a lot of people's projections based on their trauma. Some people who are naive, they look at that and they think it's facts. So what happens when people think it's facts? Then that's when they start problems with other people, whether it be through gender wars, whether it be different classes. There's a lot of beef, so that's how it plays out. It's a huge domino effect. So whenever I'm navigating through life, also I'm got to mention there's the reason why there's a lot of people who are very narcissistic, people are very selfish, because this society doesn't promote people to work together. It promotes people to fend for themselves. Even though it may look like people work together, they're really not, because at the end, each person has a specific goal, which is to make money. And how they make money, you have to do things you don't want to do, but you have to do it. And that's being a slave, honestly. And the reason why people do that, just so they can survive. They're not doing it because they enjoy it. They don't do it because they like it. They do it because they want to survive. This is why when you go to jobs in most workplaces, a lot of people are miserable. A lot of people are very angry. A lot of people are very mad because they're forced to do it, because we're controlled by corrupt government. And this has been going on since human history. Whenever I'm navigating through life, the older I'm getting, the more I'm starting to realize that there definitely is more to life compared to this human experience. There's more to life compared to what we're experiencing right now, whether it be through the afterlife or I'm just viewing Earth, the potential it could be at a much higher vibration. But because we're stuck, because we're in this timeline we're in, a lot of things are not really changing. There's still corruption going on, there's still enslavement, there's still manipulation, there's still power controls that's going on. So whenever I'm navigating through life as I'm getting older, whenever I step outside, whenever I'm interacting with people, whenever I'm just observing, I do have visions, and I also do imagine life being more free, life being more or less restricted, just things falling into place on how it should be instead of all the fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? So people think we have freedom, people think we're living a good life, but realistically we're not, because we're so fucking used to it, because we've been programmed since we were little kids, because our parents didn't know anything. So they were not teaching us how this world operates. The things I'm saying, most likely your parents have not taught you that, because most parents are clueless, because most people in past generations and future generations are very clueless. At the end, they were just doing the best we can to survive. But the reason why people do that, the reason why people don't question anything, the reason why people don't really expand their mind like that, or they don't question things or rebel, is because or what they find everything is not okay, is because they've been programmed since they were young. Now how they were programmed, their parents didn't teach them anything. They were forced to eat certain foods, to live a certain lifestyle based on societal programming, and they're forced to go to school damn near their whole lives up until they're 18. And even then, even when you're 18, you're still forced to go to college, you're still forced to work. So you have no full control over your life. Realistically, you have no full control over your life. Everything is pre-planned, everything is kind of structured in a way to where you really do not have control over your life as you think you do. So that's how we're going about life, basically, you know what I'm saying? So this is how life is, honestly. So it's very weird to me, because I be observing life and I just think, like, no way this is the end all be all. This is all life has to offer. This is all of our purpose, is to just stress about bills, stress about work, stress about money. And people say, oh, that's part of being an adult. No, that's not part of being an adult, because kids have the same struggles. Kids have the same issues. It's damn near the same thing as what adults experience. The only difference is kids are pressured to get certain grades. Kids are pressured to pass certain tests and exams. School doesn't teach you. It only teaches you how to pass. It doesn't teach you how to learn. It doesn't. This is why school does the curriculum of these schools is so fucked up. It's so backwards because kids are constantly taking tests and quizzes, and that they're forced to go to school so teachers could teach them about the curriculum. But these kids are not actually learning anything useful. It's only based on the curriculum. And who controls the curriculum? The government, the corrupt government who has an agenda to control people and to rule over the people, to dumb them down. This is why people are forced to work. This is why people are forced to be a slave. This is why people are not educated when it comes to nutrition. They're not educated when it comes to taking care of their body. This is why mental health services are not free and people have less access to mental health services. Is because the government is trying to dumb people down. That's why, because the reason why they want to dumb people down is so they can have full control over the people. So now from a spiritual perspective, with me, I'm very pissed off about that. I do blame God in the universe for allowing all this shit to happen for such a long time, because in my mind I'm like, no way I decided to reincarnate into this timeline. There's a lot of shit that's not right. People normalize this world being unfair. People normalize this world being cruel. I feel like that's not normal. People are coping. They're not really making changes to life. The fact that this world is known to be cruel and cold-hearted and it's tough being an adult and life is hard, that's programming. Life doesn't have to be hard. Life doesn't have to be cruel. Life doesn't have to be fucked up. But because people, they don't know what it's like to be free. They don't know what it's like to be at peace. All they know is work, stress, paying bills, and being on survival. That's it. So this is why people, they can't really think outside the box, and they can't really have a higher consciousness when it comes to emotional intelligence, when it comes to being connected to their heart space. Because we live in an environment where a lot of people are cold-hearted, a lot of people are narcissistic. This is why people struggle dating in this timeline. This is why a lot of females are very stuck up, or closed off, and they like to project. And this is why a lot of men like to complain, is because the dating market is so trash, is because of the society, because what the fuck is going on. And now you got time speeding up. You got the days going by a lot faster. Time has been accelerating ever since 2018. Now that time is speeding up so fast, people are not really enjoying life like that. After work, they can't really go outside and to hang out with their friends or to enjoy life or to explore. No. As soon as they're off of work, the day is immediately over. This is why the days go by so fast, because something is going on within the spiritual reason. So there's a spiritual aspect and there's a human aspect to it. So there's a lot of dumb shit that's going on. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I got to say. Have a good one. Peace.